Sharirindriya Satvatma Samayogo Dhari Jivatam Nityagascha Paryayarayuruchyate. Ayurveda was perhaps the first science of humanity that has had the lenses to see us human beings in all our entirety. Thank God for the rishis. The word rishi means sages, and it comes from the root word rish, which means the one who knows. So thank God for the rishis who knew that we human beings are not only body, but we also have a mind. And we are not only body and mind, but we have an interfacing intelligence called the senses. And last but not the least, the rishis of Ayurveda understood that we are over and above consciousness or soul. So consciousness, which is known as Chetana Dhatu, also known as Chaitanyam or the Sakshi, when it possesses body, senses, and mind, when a unique human being comes together known as Purusha. This Purusha is the subject matter of Ayurveda. Today, in the world of holistic medicine and modern concepts which are talking about mind and body connections, and where quantum physicists and modern scientists are also saying, but what about consciousness or something that is beyond body and matter? Then nowadays, in today's world, we can say, so what's new? But we have to remember that Ayurveda was making its proclamations more than 5,000 years ago. And Ayurveda was not making tentative declarations about the human being and the experience of life, but Ayurveda was making positive observations on who are we. And we are not just the body, not just the mind, not just the senses, and not disembodied consciousness alone, but an integration and a samyoga, a perfect harmony of all these four aspects that make us who we are. And when I came across this verse or shloka when I was really young, and when my teacher Baba explained it to me, that is when I was so relieved to know that I can be all of myself. And there were times when I was not feeling so physically well, but I didn't have to feel guilty about it because I could just go ahead and address matter with matter, such as food, such as applying oils on the body, applying paste and herbs on my body, taking the matter-based bodysuit, taking good care of it with choice matter made up of 5 elements. And then as I became a teenager and I started realizing that I also have feelings and emotions, and they are a very vital and inherent aspect of me, then I knew that they also need my attention. I cannot just expect them to be healthy all the time. I actually have to eat, as in I have to be in satsang or good company of my teacher and such elevated souls so that I can constantly receive good thoughts and take care of a subtle body within me, which is the mind body, the feeling body, the emoting body. It was in my early adulthood where I recognized the truth of the shloka I had learned when I was barely 12 years old. And this was the importance to take care of my sensorial body. This meant that if I was overusing my senses, if I was wrongly using my senses, or I was not using them adequately, then also ill health is a price I will have to pay. And this lesson came home to me when I was in my youthful vigor, overusing my senses either in reading books or listening to music, etc. And often that would lead to headaches or anxiety or other kinds of distress, even stomach bloating and pain in the body. And resting the eyes, as in through meditation, or watching the distant sky, of focusing on the greenery around my home and practicing certain yogic exercises which are included in what is known as pratyahara, or pulling in the senses. All of this brought about relief to my sensorial existence. And the lesson learned in my early adulthood is supporting me till date, when I have lot more books to read and write, lot more things to do with my senses, but always I am aware of a degree of balance that has to be employed in their utilization. Just because I have my senses doesn't mean they are going to be on mode and utility mode and working mode 24/7 or whenever I choose to. They need a discipline of usage, they need relief, they need, for example, oils in the nose and ear, or yogic exercises of the eyeball, etc., etc., or even gargling, for example, to calm my speech sense. So all of these were made possible due to the science of Ayurveda. But in our modern understanding of the human being, we just keep using the senses until we exhaust them. But not so in Ayurveda, because we recognize they are an important aspect of our inherent beingness. And finally, my consciousness. Is it disease-based or health-oriented? Is it selfish or selfless? Is it bound in prisons of thoughts, or is it unbound in its connection with the divine? This is the quality of my soul, my true being, my true self. And this must be healthy for everything else to be healthy. Because consciousness is my true self. And my body self, my sensorial self, and my mental self are really support personalities or support bodies. This understanding has set me free. For the health of my consciousness, I seek knowledge which is elevating in its nature, such as the knowledge contained in Veda and Vedic sciences. For my mental health, I seek the company of noble and great souls, as in through their writings, or reading their biographies, or following the footsteps of my own teacher, so that I can think my way to health. Knowledge of my sensorial self allows me to not take my faculties for granted. And finally, the strengths as well as the vulnerabilities of my physical self keep me dedicated to daily self-care practices called dinacharya, seasonal self-care practices called ritucharya, nightly practices called ratricharya, ethical behavior that keeps the body and mind sound called saddhavritta, tonification of the body and mind called rasayana and vajikarana, and finally, loving myself, considering myself worthy, and always choosing nature first to help all aspects of me is a permission given to me by Ayurveda. Thanks to this one shloka, beautifully expressed by the rishis in just few words, many lifetimes of knowledge and philosophy condensed in one shloka, the whole field of integrative medicine reduced to this one verse from Charaka Sahita has given me the authority to treat myself as a whole being and never allow anyone to dismember me and force me to live in boxes and be apologetic for any discomfort, and rather proactively seek comfort and balance and integration through the employment of the great science of Ayurveda and its sister sciences of Yoga and Vedanta. I welcome all of you to explore Ayurveda. This is the way I teach it at my traditional school, Vedika Gurukulam. This is the way I live it, and this is the way I pass it on to my students and to my son. I hope you too will enjoy the beauty, the profound philosophy, and the accurate science of Ayurveda like I do. Jama.